Have you ever wondered if writer's block means that you are not called to write? What do you do when the words stop, but you don't feel like the call? Oh, I haven't gone live yet.
Yes, you have.
Have I? It
Yeah.
says.
The timer's ticking away. 16.
All right. That's what we're going to discuss today on this episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. That
Hello.
that was the worst. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna stop real quick to explain why it was so crazy just then. Is that our app that we use, the software we use, came up and said that we had lost access, and it kept having a go live button, and I kept hitting the go live button. So sorry. Go ahead, Jamie. I'm gonna
Yeah,
stop.
I don't know what's going on with that. It's bizarre. I mean, whatever. Okay.
Whatever.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie authors on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger, and I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
And I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
Welcome, welcome. Apologies for our technical errors. I know when we're running a little late, people tend to think, oh no, did they have to cancel again? So I feel kind of bad.
I
If
know.
you're part of our Patreon, you were in our salon, which is great. We missed you, those who couldn't attend. And we were talking about how there are some things just you cannot podcast. If you're hacking your head off, if you're running to the restroom like every 3 minutes, like there are things you cannot get through a podcast. And we were experiencing some of that last week, and we're down a host. So one person trying to hold down the show just doesn't really work. So apologies for missing you all last week. But look who's here. Look, we have so many people joining our live chat. If you're ever available at 10 a.m. Eastern, please join them. They're terrific. We have Piper, good morning, and Catherine, hello. Ellen Baker, hello to you as well. And SL Perrin, so good to see all of you. Our live chat is so amazing. And let's face it, they sometimes know more than we do about the topic du jour. So you're never amiss to come on over and read what they have to say. Also, find us on Facebook, find us on Patreon. And you know what? Click like and subscribe if you don't mind on YouTube, even if you're someone who catches our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts platform you're finding us. Come on over to YouTube and help us grow by clicking the like and subscribe buttons. And that's all for shilling, I guess. Time to dig into the topic du jour, wouldn't you say,
Real
Jen?
quick though, since we have people right now, since we weren't here last week, unfortunately, we're not going to be here next. Well, we might be. I'm not going to be here next week. It just depends on whether or not Tina is available because I have a previous engagement. But we have stuff to talk about the end. So if you're here, stay through the topic because we have other things we got to talk about for the
Right.
podcast.
The stuff that we would be talking about next week, we're going to have to try to cover later in this episode, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for that. Now we're jumping into, is your writer's block spiritual? You know, the words maybe have run dry, but you possibly still feel a calling, wouldn't you say, Jen?
Yeah. Gosh, I feel
It's
like I'm living that.
it's it's as much as 85% of authors who experience writer's block at some point. And we're talking today about how faith plays a role in that. And
Right.
so I think the first thing we're going to cover are some practical strategies to break through.
Right. So
I think
before we
it's
get into like whether like it's faith-based or how to do that, we should talk about like just straight up if you have writer's block, what should you do about that? Right.
And at first I think this is a do as I say and not as I do, but you need to separate your identity from your output. You can't say that you're not a writer because you don't publish at all or consistently, even. If you write, you're a writer. And that's that.
Right. And I feel like even if I'm not constantly writing, like I'm still a writer. I still have written things, like full length things. And I need to take that pressure off of me. Like, oh, no one's going to consider me a writer anymore. Actually, one of my former students, when I was still a high school teacher, published a book recently within the last year. She published 2 within the last year, and it's not the same genre. It is it's spicy as far as I've been told. I love her dearly. So we do keep in contact. But she's getting like accolades and like she's selling like hotcakes, and I'm like, I'm not even putting out a book. Like, so
Mhm.
right. But it doesn't mean I'm not a writer. I'm
Well,
just
and
a
I
different
think
kind of writer.
yeah, and I think it's important that you talked about that because I don't see that on our outline. We've talked before about how comparison is the thief of joy, and you can't compare your journey to somebody
Right.
else's.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm so
because
happy for her, but
mhm.
like I can't make that like beat myself up because of that. Correct.
And I might say it's funny because as I'm thinking about this, you're a writer because you write. Sometimes the evidence is not even that you write, but then I think, well, that just means you're a creative because
Mhm.
think about the fact that when you're in an environment where there isn't any social media to distract you, what activities does your brain turn to? And if it's making up scenarios, if it's looking around the room and wondering what the relationship is between that couple over there, like those are still signs that you, if not a writer, are a creative. Um,
Yeah.
so don't let your identity get wrapped up in your output.
Right. Because your writing isn't being a writer isn't tied to how many words you write a month. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Okay, and then what about prayer as it comes to writing? Jen, why don't you speak about this because I don't think
yeah.
I'm anybody to talk about prayer life and writing.
Well, for me, I do believe that like when I am really, really stuck, I have sometimes have to step back from the writing and say, okay, else is not aligned in my life? What is happening? And often I find that like I focus too much in certain areas and not enough on the Lord. Honestly, I'll be completely honest. I am one of the people that it does not come naturally to every day sit down my Bible and open it up and spend an hour, communing with the Lord. When I do that, it's great. And honestly, everything else seems to fall in line. So I don't know why I don't just do it more often, but it is something that I have to actively every day make sure I'm doing. And so often I find that if I am stuck in my writing, sometimes it's because I have not put my focus where it needs to be to begin with. And so I think that through prayer and through time spent with the Lord is one of the first things you need to do when you feel like you're writing a stuck.
Well, and I would maybe not necessarily pray, Lord, help me write.
Right.
But maybe I might explore some of the things you're talking about. So maybe the prayer should be, what can I learn from this season that I'm going through? Or
Right.
what do I need to surrender to you?
Right. Or what is it that you want me to be writing about? Or what is it that what am I missing? Lord, please
Hmm.
reveal to me in all areas of my life the truth and what I'm missing. Sometimes that is a very powerful prayer.
Now, I feel like this next thing is kind of a how to deal with writer's block, but we've got lower the bar on here. And that's like intentionally stop
Yeah.
expecting so much of yourself.
Oh,
Um, I think that
that's so hard for me. That is so me though. Like that oh, I can't get this whole book done like in one sitting. So then I just like don't do it. Like I walk away.
I know
Yeah.
that is really in this moment speaking to me because I was recently talking to Piper Dow about this. She'll remember that it's like I think of the whole mountain of work that I have if I'm ever going to get through all of my works in progress, and it just paralyzes me. And so if I lowered the bar to just opening my manuscript every day or some other smaller goal,
Mhm.
intentionally with the intention of eventually growing that into something more that could be helpful.
Right. Like this is why when we do our writing sprint months, which, hint, hint, we're going to talk about that in a minute. It works for me because it really lowers the bar. All I'm expected to do is write for 15 minutes.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter if it's
And
good writing. It doesn't matter what I'm writing about, just for 15 minutes. And it makes a big difference for me.
yeah, and if you want to be super salty, you could be like, I'm going to write bad on purpose. I'm going to write something awful. And it's funny how suddenly, no, no, I'm a good writer will come rearing up, you know?
Didn't we do a sprint like that early on? that we all
I think
tried to
so.
yeah, like, we tried to do a sprint that was, like, write something badly, and no ma and even by the end of it, it was still good. Like, we are like, "This is so hard to write bad," but it was a fun experiment. So, not like to pat ourselves on the back like, "Oh, we're so good." No, everybody could do that, like, just because the more you write, the better you become, so
Mhm.
Kate Piper says, "I found my block was largely related to life stressors outside of my writing." Yes, sister, yes. Shocking to me that the 2 were that connected. Duh, LOL. But prayer not
Mhm.
about writing, but about life was more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I hate to repeat myself. I know I've given this analogy before, but it was just really surprising to me after I had a C-section birth that I could not move my legs. So, like, duh, you had this spinal whatever medication that's going to make you not able to move your legs, but just for some reason I couldn't connect the two. Like, what do you mean I can't move my legs? And so when she says like duh like that, like you feel
Yeah.
like you've basically been given an epidural by these life circumstances,
Mhm.
and this is why the writing won't happen. And it is very difficult to connect the emotional and I don't know if you would call it physical output of work.
Yeah.
It's a little bit difficult to connect those two. I feel
Yeah.
that, Piper.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a great tip: feed creativity instead of forcing it. Oh, do
Mm.
I really like the sound of that? What does that mean practically, Jen?
Like, listen to some music, play some music, um,
Mm.
read a book. I know in our notes here we have read outside of your genre, which I think is great advice. It is not great advice for me. Um, we've talked about this in the past.
Mhm.
I think an
Mhm.
outlier. I don't think that everybody's like this. But when I read outside of my genre, it affects my writing too much.
Mm.
And my own creativity. So I only read outside my genre when I'm choosing to take a break from writing. Plus I really enjoy my genre. So maybe I'm just being
Mhm.
stubborn. I don't know. But sometimes like if you are just so stuck in what you're writing, reading something that isn't at all like your writing can be a fresh refresh where you don't it doesn't remind you of your writing, doesn't make you think about your writing. It makes you just enjoy something else creative. Can be a very good helpful boost to your own writing.
Yeah, and I'm inclined to encourage going to a museum or even a
Mm.
botanical garden or even like the zoo where you see God's creation on display, or even possibly, go take a little pottery class or something where you're creative in another way
Yeah.
so that you're just feeding your creativity and not forcing it.
I think nature, I think is a great thing. Going for a walk, just going
Mm,
out without any intentions, without having your phone in front of your face while you're walking, just going out for a walk makes a huge, huge difference in when you're blocked. All right. So LM says, I try to write every day except for Sunday, day of rest. There's days I don't due to other previous conflicts. I do try to write on my 30 to 60-minute lunch break at work, but there's times I couldn't. I think that scheduling it is great. I honestly,
yeah.
we've said this for years, even though I'm not practicing it right now, but we've said it for years. Just get your butt in the seat, put your button in the chair and write. If you schedule that you're going to write and you sit down, I mean, even if you showed up every single day and stared at the screen for 15 minutes, believe it or not, you're making progress and eventually you'll be back to writing again. So I think that's good.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But before we do, let's talk about those emotional factors and even
Mm.
physical ones that we hinted at earlier that could be kind of the cause of this burnout.
Yeah, if you're not getting enough sleep, it's really hard to be creative, right? So that's one physical thing
Hmm.
right there. It's going to cause you to burn out, first of all. Or if you're just doing too much, like
Yeah.
it's one of my big problems is that everyone else comes first before me. Not just with my writing, like my own health, my own everything. Like everybody else comes first. And so burnout is a big issue for me. So,
If you're having any changes in your life,
mm,
if you've moved houses, if you've experienced a divorce, if you've added a baby, if you've lost somebody, there's all of these life factors that are sort of those epidurals that you wouldn't connect to the inability to write.
right.
But sometimes you have to give yourself a little bit of grace. And sometimes you have to think if pick someone you really love. If person that I really love came to me and told me they were going through what I'm going through in my life right now,
Mhm.
would I say to them, "Why aren't you writing?" Would that be the first thing that comes out of my mouth?
Right.
Chances are the answer is no.
Catherine says, I've been dealing with some health stuff for a few years and it has made it much harder to write and even read. Agreed.
Oh.
I feel that too. And LM says, all of the writing on my 30 to 60-minute breaks is done by hand and in cursive. Oh, that is another thing we've talked about in the past too, that when I get blocked,
Mhm.
I sit down paper and pen. There's something it is, and there is some science out there that when you use a pen to write, that it activates a different part of your brain than when you're typing or doing like something electronic. So that could be helpful too.
Okay, now let's say we want to do a button seat kind of breakthrough methodology here, Jen.
Mhm.
Um, what if you're not a real rigid button chair person? Could we say maybe we're going to develop this into some kind of a rhythm as opposed to a routine?
Yeah.
Just for people who kind of are repelled by the word routine.
Jamie, do you know anybody that's repelled by the
Oh,
word?
I don't know. Maybe.
No, I think rhythm is a good thing because routine does feel kind of like strict and rigid, where rhythm is like it flows with your life. It flows with who you are, right? So if
Hmm.
you wanted to build like a sustainable, like creative rhythm, there are a few things that we think that you could do. And one of them is create a rule for writers. So you guys know me. I'm all about plotting, right? So
Hmm.
having a plan, no matter what the plan is, it's far better than having no plan at all. So like Jamie alluded to earlier, like about lowering the expectations, that let's do that, but let's make a plan for it. So let's say like for April coming up here for the writing sprint month, the lowered expectation is I'm going to write for 15 minutes and that's it. Now you'll find that if you show up for, if you're part of our Patreon and you show up for any of our um like group writing sprints, which again you can join for as little as $5 a month to be able to do this. And you can cancel after this month if you don't want to do it. But you'll see that like most people stay for more than the 15 minutes, but you're only expected to be there for 15 minutes. And there were days that I was like, okay, see you guys after the first 15, because
Hmm.
I just wasn't feeling it or I had something going on. But no matter what your whatever it is you're going to do, give a plan. Like for us, the in April, it's going to be 8 p.m. on weeknights and 8 a.m. on the weekends. So we create a writing schedule. I also think that when you plan, I think it's biblical for a reason. The Sabbath is for man, not man for the Sabbath. You need to also include some sort of rest. Now, we do in April, we do write every single day, but the rest of my Sabbath is a Sabbath. But you could choose to not write on Sundays like LM. If it feels like it has worked for you, then that I agree that taking off the Sabbath is the right thing to do. Um, and like we talked about before about like making sure that like you've prayed about it, like maybe you have a plan for prayer. Like for me, I try to every day, first thing I have this app, we're going to talk about it later, but this little fun app, and it reminds me to do different things. And one of the things it reminds me to do is to read my Bible, and it's been working.
Mm.
It's crazy. Like sometimes I forget about the app until bedtime. I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I go in really quick and I do a bunch of things because I don't want to not have checked off the things I'm supposed to check off every day. But so I'm not perfect at it, but having some sort of plan is better than no plan.
And that goes for reading too. If you think
Oh
that
yeah.
reading is important, scripture reading, and also for your prayer life. So come up with a plan. And even if your standards are very low. So,
Yeah.
for example, when I was committed to doing office hours, I was committed to showing up and doing something about writing. That kept the part of me that hates same thing every day from rebelling against the idea
Mhm.
of this whole thing. If I had told myself, you have to show up and write 500 words, I would get so tired of that so fast and I would just want to quit. So I know better than to even make that commitment with myself. So a lot of this is really knowing yourself. And again, not comparing yourself to others on the same journey.
Mhm.
And the reason why I didn't mind showing up is because the next thing in our outline, community matters.
Mhm.
It was knowing that I was going to have my friends in the writing room with me, also committed to advancing their writing projects at the same time, that really made the experience worth it. So, the community that you surround yourself with matters.
I think that's key what you just said too, Jamie. Like not only that your friends are there and you have a community, but for it was the same thing for me, knowing that we were all there furthering our careers. I feel like we all had a vested interest into each other's books and
Mm-hmm.
what we were each doing. I'm telling you, I am so like still begging Rhonda to put out there's some books that she was working on. I want her to put because I want to finish reading them, right? And like
Mm-hmm.
your works like I'm still never going to give up on the Moxie series. I still cannot wait. You know what I mean? You're laughing, but it's true. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's part of like I was invested in it, you know. And so I think that the accountability is more than just, you know, oh, there's someone that's going to tattle on me if I don't show up. No, it's someone who's invested in you. It's a community thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
And if you don't currently have a writing group, we have episodes about how to get one going in your own hometown if you want to go back through our catalog. And also find some accountability partners, possibly through our Facebook group. We don't allow self promotion, but if you wanted to go in there and say, is anybody free to meet up to write on Wednesday at 2? I don't think anybody would object to that, right, Jen?
Right, absolutely, but just the opposite. We would encourage that. And
Mm-hmm.
and to plug our Patreon group too, like, you know, not to lose anybody like, oh, they're just asking for money. It's least amount of money is $5 a month, and it helps to continue to keep this podcast going. And for some things that we have planned for the future that we would love to do that we just cannot fully support financially ourselves. But with that, it gives you an added community. Once a month, we get together for the salon, and we didn't talk. Did we talk about writing at all this month? I feel bad. I feel like we didn't. No one seemed to care because we just like to see each other. Like if it wasn't for that community, I don't know that I get to see Sarah. Like I love like talking with Sarah and hanging out with Sarah and Piper and all the others that show up in, you know, and Sonia and all of them. So we know each other and we've invested interest in each other's lives and careers, and that makes a big difference when you have a community.
Yeah, Piper is reminding you that we did. We talked about newsletters
Oh, that's
because I
right.
was like, is newsletters really still the thing? And we had a little bit of a back and forth about that. Yep.
Yeah, and fortunately, Piper was there because she's the only one who brought any information or knowledge to the table. So thanks for being that person for us, Piper, when we are losers.
Yes, and you know, attend a conference maybe for
Oh
writers or
yeah.
a get together for writers. And you may or may not, it's not necessarily to go there and try to sell books, it's to go and find like-minded community, right?
Yep.
And I got together with Piper because she happened to be in sunny Florida. And so we made time to get together, and it was really a great time of fellowship and encouragement that I hope can be repeated.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
So, okay, so before we move on, just we want to encourage you. If you have writer's block, I encourage you to reframe it. It isn't proof that you failed.
Right.
Um,
And
it's
it's not,
not.
yeah,
Go
it's not
ahead.
saying that God's silent. Like there's no, don't take it as negatively as what I think we all beat ourselves up with. Like, oh, I'm not a writer. Or, it's not any of those things.
Yeah, sometimes it just means you need to rest.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it means you need to. The notes say roots before fruit, which is interesting because I haven't touched my manuscript and coming up on, well, that's a lie. I've opened it and fiddled around a little, but doesn't mean that it hasn't grown and become better in my mind as far as, oh, I think this needs a little bit more of an elaboration. Or anyway, the point is there may be work going on behind the scenes that just because your fingers aren't on the keyboard doesn't mean your time is being wasted.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Okay, so what might this time be preparing you for? That's a question we want to leave with you before we kind of move on. because as Jen alluded to, with us not being able to podcast next week, which next week is the last. Oh, Jen, are you sure
I'm
it's
not
only going to
sure.
be the 20th? I think we will still have the 27th.
Oh, then never mind.
Yay! Because
Awesome. No.
we could still talk about it a little bit for those who are new to the podcast or new to the experience. I mean, we only ever did it once before. Jen, it was kind of a whim, right? That
It was
we
100% a whim. Yeah.
Yeah, you had said that you were going to commit to writing 15 minutes a day for the month of March
Nope.
and no,
November.
November,
Yeah. Yeah.
because of NaNoWriMo going away.
Yes. We have a whole
Yeah.
episode about the, like, kind of late to the game, to be honest, but about NaNoWriMo being gone and the hole that it left, and then who was trying to fill the hole. And we kind of focus on a couple of different writing challenges that are out there. And then the next week was the day before. It was literally the day before. Why am I like that? The day before November. And we were like, just kind of, it was the end of the podcast. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to just do my own channel. I think I'm going to write one sprint every day in Marnie's world. And you were like, I could do that. And Tina was like, I could
Mm-hmm.
do that. And the next thing we know, we have a challenge. So here we are.
Mm.
So
Yes.
it went so well, like, because it was like we talked about in this episode today. It was low expectation. We lowered the bar very low. And there was the community. There was an added part of it was community, because even if you don't want to join our Patreon, people over on Facebook were there. We were encouraging each other over there. So it was all these things, and it just really worked. And when towards the end of the month, we had some people asking us, are you going to do this again? And we are like, why not? So here we are at our why not, because April is another month that is 30 days. And so we're going to go for it.
Yeah, and there used to be Camp Nano, right?
There
So
did. Yes.
basically, yeah. So basically, if you're looking for somewhere to focus your writing and you don't want the pressure of writing 50,000 words, you could join us for one sprint a day for the 30 days of April.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ellen Baker, Marnie and Mr. Boss, that's so cute.
Yep.
She knows, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so is that your strategy for this time too, Jen, or are you going to have a different strategy, or we talk about that next time, or what?
So still lowered expectations than what I would normally have for myself, like for Nano, or like a month where I'm going to really focus my writing, but higher than last time. Again, the expectation is 15 minutes of writing. That's it. Boom. That's all it is. But for me, I'm going to try to do some more prep beforehand and get the story organized so that my sprints are a little bit more productive. As I wrote the whole month, and it was a lot of fun, and like kind of figuring out my characters. Well, then I went back and I'm like, I'm going to organize all my sprints. Now, mind you, I didn't realize this, but Marnie showed up in our first year of this podcast. That's how
Wow.
long I've been sprinting this story. And Marnie from the first year is vastly different from the Marnie I've been writing. And I think I like Marnie from the first year better. Still the ideas are like still a lot of the same things. Still the sassiness and whatnot. But anyway, I'm going to try to organize that better. But if I don't have a full outline and it's not like perfect, I'm not going to let it stop me from writing in her world this next month. So a little bit more expectation, but still really low expectations. So
All right, yeah.
what did
And
you just wrote anything you felt like, right? Because we provide a prompt every day too. That's the other thing that we did for everybody.
yeah, I wrote whatever the prompt inspired me to write, but I did have a couple of characters come out of it in kind of a strange Middle Earth-ish, not Middle Earth, I don't even know, like fantasy world. Feck and Sparrow came out of that, and I really enjoy them. And I don't know if I will do that again. Like I'm going into this without a plan, although we are still 3 weeks away, which in my world is an eternity, it feels like. And at the same time, it's tomorrow.
It does feel like that. Yeah, it does. I know. I feel the same
But
way.
I'm not a plotter. And so I certainly am not going to plot. And I don't have, like, my work in progress all needs, I mean, arguably, maybe I need a rewrite. I'll have to think about that. But I think most of my work in progress is editing work that needs to happen and not so much writing. So it isn't as if I've got a work in progress that I need to finish up writing. So we'll see what I end up doing.
Mhm. Oh, Piper says that she tried deliberately to use the prompt to write not in her world, just to enjoy
Mm.
sprinting to discover. So see, whatever it is for you, that's the great thing
Mm-hmm.
about this challenge is you use it for however it will help your writing career.
Yep. You just set a timer for 15 minutes and write.
Yep. Hey, speaking of Marnie, guess what I wrote in today for our
Yeah, let's and what so we could switch now. Yeah, let's talk about that. So every week on the podcast, we have a prompt that we write to for 15 minutes and then we read them for you guys here before we edit or anything. And so you wrote about Marnie
I
this
did. I wrote
time?
it in World. Yep. And I used today's prompt was 5 words: beam, profile, sensitive, random, and convert. And I used 3 of the 5. So not bad for 15 minutes. Okay. You asked to see me, sir? Marnie, yes. Come in, come in. Mr. Boss Dad didn't look up as she entered the office, but Marnie could tell from his profile that whatever it was on his laptop that held his attention, it was something that pleased him. She had never seen his face beam like this. She took the chair in front of his desk as that he motioned her towards and waited for him to speak. She didn't have to wait for long. I know I am a recent convert to social media, but what I'm seeing here, this is good, right? Marnie held in a chuckle. Yes, sir, I would consider over 1 million views good. His face stretched into a full smile. I knew you could do it. Well, sir, I didn't do it alone. His smile faded into what could only be described as a sympathetic grimace. We both know you did this. My son might have the title, but we both know he doesn't really have the drive to deserve that title. Marnie's mouth fell open, creating an open freeway for words that should have been locked up in a parking lot.
Uh-oh.
No, I don't know that. And you don't know that either because you don't really pay attention to what he does anyway. Excuse me? A smart woman would have taken note of the man's change in demeanor and tone, but apparently Marnie had left her smart woman filter at home today. You heard me. I know, wait, you heard me. I know you did because I have noticed that you listen when I speak, which I appreciate it more than you know. But I've also noticed that the minute your son starts to speak, whether it is in private or in front of the entire staff, you either roll your eyes, pick up your phone, start writing something on a notepad, anything to distract you from actually listening to your second in command. Now you listen here. I do listen. I listen to you. I listen to other staff members, but I also listen to your son. And to be honest, sir, he's the only one really worth listening to around here. Marnie stood. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going back to my desk to pack it up. Are you quitting? Are you firing me? 3, 2, 1.
Yay.
She's sassy with
Okay.
him too.
It's supposed to be positive only, but I would change it to aren't you firing me? Uh
Oh, yeah. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah, 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 yeah. Anyway, but whatever. But anyway, I really like how she doubles down. Like she does not back off at all, you know? She's just like, and another thing, right?
Right. She's her own
Which
worst
makes me,
enemy, honestly.
yes, but it makes me really wonder because like the beginning to this part, I'm excited to see how she gets to the place where she's just going to say it, or is she always that person? Does she think about saying things but not say, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like this feels like a penultimate moment, like where she's showing us now the character growth and
Right.
yeah.
So I think from looking at old sprints and whatnot, I think that she holds her tongue all the time because I think that we all know that she had to, well, we don't all know this. Anyway, she had to like kind of fight to get where like but anyways, she has to keep this job because she has college loans to pay for. And this job pays
Mm.
really well and she hadn't been able to find a job before this. So she's kind of stuck here, but she's lost I think she might have lost other jobs because of her mouth, right? And so she's trying to keep it at bay and everyone kind of like takes advantage of her, I think. Um and I think that's one of the things that Mr. Boss sees about her is her sass and that's what he brings out her, and he enjoys it. But this might be the first time that Mr. Boss Dad has like had experienced it, and so she just assumes she's getting fired. So anyway, yeah, I don't
It's too bad that we don't go to the unemployment office anymore because it would be so great if she was in there and they're just like,
know.
you again. You know what I mean? Like early in the story before she gets her job, you
It could
know?
I mean, it could be a, yeah, see, we have, like, LinkedIn and other things now. I was gonna
I
say it could be
know.
I think that they still have headhunters out there. I don't know.
And
Maybe
it
I
could
could
also be like a workplace development place where you
mhm,
could like so maybe as a part of her unemployment benefits she has to be doing these things and
right,
one of it is going to this anyway because what an opportunity for a character to just be like can't you just not so that
right.
you're not always in here anyway.
Yeah, so
I love it.
right out of college, I couldn't get a job to save my
Oh,
life because of the degree that I got was so new. My degree in 1995, that shows you how old I am, was in, internet design. From it was
wow.
so new that my college didn't really have a title for it, so they just put it under communication studies. That was my actual degree. And, it was so new that, like, I couldn't get a job. The largest radio station in Boston, the 108, KISS 108, I met with their HR person, and he literally said to me, "Why would we ever need a website?" No matter
Wow.
yeah, and I had already explained to him all I could do, what it could do for him, where it was heading, and they like, I couldn't get anybody to hire me. So
And to this day they still don't have a website, just
no,
kidding.
they have a great website. Anyway, so like that whole thing speaks to me because I had to get work that was like it was like basically temp work. I had to go to an agency and I went to the like as I write this story, the office cubicles and everything, I lived that. Like I remember I am taking that from my memory of what this building looked like that I worked in and how intimidating it was and how the people acted and yeah, so
Temp work could be the answer. Like if she's going on temporary assignments and has to keep going
mhm.
to get resent out. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, anyway,
Obviously, I'm
thanks
just
for that.
engaged and
Yeah,
invested. All right.
okay.
So now I have to read my sprint. Yay.
Have
Okay,
to.
so
Come on. It's your favorite time of the day of Friday.
we have the 5 words, so here we go.
Mhm.
She wished the beam of sun would move. If she didn't keep her head at just such an angle, it shone right into her eye. To be fair, it was unlikely the speaker would care that she presented her profile to him for the duration of the lecture, as he had yet to look up from the gigantic tome from which he read. She wondered how Geordie would have handled being made to sit where she was, then mused he would not have been as careless as she had been when choosing her seat. Then she wondered how he was getting along with his grandparents, who had only been intermittent participants in his life before agreeing to keep him for the weekend. At least he was old enough now to make accommodations for himself, she thought. Though she'd warned her mother about his sensitive skin, she put a set of bed sheets into his own luggage. Though her parents had witnessed random outbursts during their brief holiday encounters, she worried that the stress of a sustained time away from home would render her son unbearable to live with from the perspective of two virtual strangers. A man in a cassock came down the aisle ringing a bell, and everyone stood. They filed out of the room. As she allowed the river of converts to carry her along to the dining
Mhm.
hall, she allowed her memory to carry her back to a time when she was a young initiate. She looked at her hands and tried to remember them smooth and unwrinkled. It had been a long time since she'd mourned her youth, and even still she did not mourn it as much as she regretted she did not have it as a tool in her arsenal to help find a new father for Geordie.
Wow. Okay, so many questions, which, like, I'm sure you don't have the answers to because it was a sprint. Like, converts, like, yeah, where is she? And why is Jordy this? And where is Jordy's dad? And yeah, really well done. I love, like, I felt the anxiety of your character and of her son, honestly, having the fact that, like, he's staying with grandparents that barely have spent any time with them. Like, that is like, um, yeah, very well done, Jamie. Like, I have, like, lots of positive things, but it's all, like, in the form of questions, right?
Yeah,
But it's all
it's
positive
good.
because 'cause I'm, like, already all into the story and, like, I'm already, like, yeah, sold, so
I appreciate that because again, it kind of was out of left field. It was the prompts, it was a sprint, and so it's difficult to feel enthusiastic about. So I appreciate good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
LM Baker, starting new jobs can be scary. And also, she likes the doll behind you. She says it's dressed as Widows of the West.
Actually, that is Gertrude. If you have read my books, book 1, and it's actually, I feel like I have one of them here. I've like sold out of all of book 1. I need to order some more. But Gertrude,
Oh, what a problem
Gertrude,
to have.
yeah, right. Gertrude has a very prominent role in book 1, and that's actually her. She's actually that's the actual doll that's on the cover of the book too. So yeah, and Piper
go
says,
ahead.
and why was Jordy staying with the grandparents? Lots of questions. You have me hooked. Like honestly, right? Yeah, why is he there? And yeah, and
Thanks
why
so
don't
much.
the grandparents have a relationship with him? Like, is it just distance, or is there like
Mm.
something else happening there?
Mm.
Interesting. Very well done,
Yes.
Jamie.
See what can be born out of a sprint. If I wanted to, I could work on answering all of those questions and maybe come up with something more substantial to
Right.
publish. So sprints are good. Remember that as we head toward April. So, okay, I would love to know from those in the chat, what is their week have in store for them? What is coming up? What's next? What's new? Jen, what's new? What's next with you?
Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna be working on Marnie's story to try to structure it a little bit more and have a better idea of what kind of scenes I need, if not actually having a full outline of what that story is gonna be. Um, there's a little part of me that's scared to end this story. Like I've been doing it for so long, then what am I gonna write? No, I've
Oh,
got
yeah.
gosh, I have a list of things to work on. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna do is I'm working on outlining Marnie's story. What about you, Jamie?
It's interesting that you asked me my plan for April because I had none. And so it's making me think, like, should I have one? And then it's also making me think, can I commit to any kind of regular office hours? Can I do 8 a.m. on Saturdays as a more permanent thing instead of just April? Can I do 8 p.m. on at least Mondays or something? Like, is there
Right.
some kind of a commitment that I can make to designate for writing? I do have other obligations that I conveniently gave myself to get in the way, but I feel like maybe it's time to make that commitment to have the butt in the chair on a regular basis,
Mm,
and then think about what I would want that to look like as far as do I want to be in the room for the Patreon subscribers? How do I want to do that if I'm going to do it?
right. Because we all are also trying to be very careful not to take on too much ourselves too, because we've done that in the past and then have burned ourselves out. Like when, it's one thing to like make a commitment to yourself, but then making a commitment to others also can be pretty heavy too. Piper says
Mhm.
she's finalizing her new reader magnet and launching that to be her newsletter subscribers at the upcoming week. That's
Oh, that's
awesome.
so exciting.
That's very cool. Whoops, I hit the wrong one. Jason says today and tomorrow working through ordination questions before my final
Wow.
meeting in April. As long as that meeting goes well, I will be ordained in June. Congratulations,
Yes.
Jason. That is a big deal. It's a really
That
big
is a
deal.
really big deal.
LM says that she's doing her full-time job, hopefully getting to do writing related, the pages of pictures that I have in a scrapbook. Oh, I love a scrapbook. I haven't
Ooh.
scrapbooked in so long. So, all right, it's awesome.
All right. Well, I think that concludes this episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. Until next time, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye for now.